What's up, everybody? We're back for episode 70. How's everybody doing tonight? I am very energized, ready to go. 70 episodes, brothers. We did it. We made it. 30 more, and then we're at 100. So, how's y'all evening going this evening?
Bro, how many bangs have you drank today?
0.
The official sports drink of Mike Breen.
I've actually drinking 0.
Bang.
So,
Bang!
I'm pink licking good today, bro.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir. We got sports coming. NFL is back starting tomorrow, as in Thursday, when this is recorded or going live tomorrow at noon. But it's going to be a great year of the NFL. I mean, there's so many toss-up in the teams and everything. But first, fellas, before we get to our topics, let's get on to Mikey Mike's. I'm interested to hear about his fact of the week. What's on Mike's mind? So, Mikey Mike, we're throwing over to you. What's on your mind this week?
What is on my mind this week? Well, gentlemen, as you know, the MLB trade deadline has been reached. It is over. The deals have been made. And whether you like or dislike what your team did is beside the point at this exact moment of the show, because what is on my mind is a fact of MLB history that came up due to the MLB trade deadline. Max Scherzer was dealt from the New York Mets, who sold off a bunch of their big money. By the way, as a side note, fun fact, that's not this fact, they're paying $113 million for players that aren't on their team after the deadline. But in the particular Max Scherzer trade, they sent him to the Texas Rangers, and the Mets are paying all but about $22 million of his deal. So Max Scherzer is now the first player in MLB history to be paid at least $15 million in a single season by 3 different teams.
Wow.
That's cool. Okay.
He's being paid by the Nationals, the Mets, and the Rangers all at the same time.
Get that.
Because the Nationals are holding on to that deal from when they traded him over to the Dodgers.
Right. They have back pay still due to him from the Dodgers, and then he went and signed with the Mets, and now he got traded to the Rangers, and the Rangers are paying $22 million, and the Mets are paying the rest.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's insanely dumb, but good for Max Scherzer. He's, like I said, he's getting that money. So
can we talk about be elected into the Hall of Fame right now?
the good contract Hall of Fame.
No, he's the get the bag legend. That's what we call us.
Yep. Yeah, for real.
Legend.
Sure. The thing I don't get is the stupid money from Stephen Cohen, or is it Stephen Cohen, right?
Steve Cohen, yeah.
Yeah, from the Mets owner. Like, he just sold off everything he got in the offseason. And basically is like, nah, I don't even care. I'll pay their contracts. Just take these fucking players from us. While our Yankees just sat there and got 2 relievers. Yeah. But Jamie, y'all Rays did pretty well at the trade deadline there. Speaking about trade deadlines.
Made an aggressive move. Tried to get some depth in the bullpen, which they didn't. That's what we need to try and make a deep run in the playoffs this year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because if the Rays needed anything, it was more pitching.
Of course.
Why not? Right. I mean, as we see tonight, the Yankees are probably going to take this game. I mean, it's not over with yet, but as of the date of this game, the Yankees are probably going to beat the Rays here tonight. And their first victory in August, which is awesome. But Mike, great fact of the week.
Thank you.
Can't wait to hear next week's. Make sure you guys tune in for next week's Mike's What's on His Mind. Fellas, I have a question for you about some trading, some players, and specifically Damian Lillard comes to mind. Some players at a high level who have had much respect for the organization. Should the organization respect them as well? And say, yeah, we'll do what's right by you and trade you where you want to go. Are they owed that from giving their best for their franchise and giving those contracts and saying, I'm going to stick here if the player eventually asks for a trade? Grandpa Jam, I'll throw it over to you.
Absolutely not. I mean, you're playing to compete and you're playing to win as an owner. If you're just going to go ahead and say like, well, I'll just do you to a team and make them much better than they already are with potential superstar. Well, if you still have somewhat of your best years in front of you, obviously, I think Dame's, if it's saying that example, his best years might be behind him at this point. But if he has 1 or 2 more seasons where he has, like Harden has had a revival and had career numbers, why are you going to deal him to somewhere where you're automatically saying, well, I'm in a rebuild for my team? But what if that lasts for 2 or 3 years longer than you thought? And now your team's completely out of it. I mean, you have to deal him out of conference if you're going to do that, number one. But if he's saying, I don't want to be dealt out of conference and the teams he's talking to in your conference, why are you going to honor him and say, well, you know what? I'll just go ahead and say my team's not going to have a chance because I just bolstered up another team's chances to win the NBA championship tremendously by giving them an all-time superstar, possibly an all-time NBA great top 75 player. So, you know, I won't do it. Like, to me, it's more a matter of a business transaction. The deal has to work for me. At the end of the day, I'm hiring a GM to do a great job. I can't make the GM look bad as an owner. Just be like, no, 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 we'll honor this guy because he stayed with us for 10 years. So absolutely not.
So you're against the player getting the respect factor in the sense of being with the franchise for such a long time, bringing in billions of dollars for the franchise, and they're asking now for a trade.
You know, the only thing that matters is right now in sports.
Yeah,
yeah.
I get what your mindset is on that. This was a sticky one for me because it's like I think it's all situational, realistically, right? Like there goes that factor that I just said that these players are bringing in billions. Like obviously, each player's value to the team is worth differently, right? LeBron's is worth billions, but also like when we're looking at these different contracts, if you're on the fence or you want to press, and I think Trey Day and I were talking about this here, a few weeks ago. When you're talking about a player as in let's say the NBA standard, you have to push the ownership to go get players for to compete, right? So it's not uncommon for star players to go get 2 to 3 year deals with a player option after the last deal. So, in my opinion, I think it's more on the players' fault. They give all their time and effort to this organization, but Dame said, I'll sign a 6-year deal. The Trailblazers said, perfect. He's got no trade clause. We have him wrapped around our finger. We'll rebuild for 3 years. Then the next 3 years compete for a championship. And I think now that they're starting to get the key pieces they need, now it's there. But to answer the question is no, I don't think the GMs and the owners should go off of just a single player, no matter how much money they brought in for the city, because ultimately there's free agency for a reason. You re-signed here. You wanted to be here. Things aren't going your way. You're not winning a championship. You kind of saw the writing on the wall there. So ultimately, you made that decision to re-sign. So, Trey Day, I'm interested to hear what you're saying.
I don't agree with the word respect at all. I mean, respect. If he respected it, he just would have walked away 6 years or not took a 6-year deal. He took a 6-year deal. In Damian Lillard's case, that's on him. If he really wanted that type of control, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show, then you take a little bit less and get a no trade clause. You tell them I want a no trade clause. You don't have a no trade clause. You come in and you say, I'm only going to that team. That is what's called free agency. Free agency exists so you have the right to move. When the players fought for that years ago, the purpose of that was so you have the right to move. This ain't like the NFL where it's a franchise tag and he was going to be stuck. He had the choice to leave. He decides he wants to stay. I don't see the gray area, and I don't see the let's feel bad for him. At the end of the day, people keep, and don't get me wrong, I like Damian, but people keep saying, what has he done for the franchise? What has he done for the franchise? How many championships have they won? They haven't even been to a championship at all. He's not even the best player in franchise history. People have overrated that. Bill Walton's won a championship for that franchise, and Clyde Drexler is the leading stat getter in most categories for that team. And as took them further than Dame. So everybody wants to do this because we like Dame. I like Dame too, but this ain't people act like this is some tap out and this is Derek Jeter and we're like, oh, let's do this right for him because he just did so much for the city and the franchise. Dame ain't did shit for the city and the franchise. At this point, it's time for him to move on to the Scoot Henderson era, but at the same time, Dame can't realistically go in there and say, I'm only going to one team, because when you do that, you tank the value. If he is doing so much for the team, how is he doing so much for the team when they trying to hand him Tyler Hero and a couple picks? He's actually screwing the team right now when he goes in there and says it's one. So what are you doing for Portland? If you're Dame, you have to at least go in there and give 3 teams and let some type of bidding war come out. But to do the one, that's ridiculous. So no, I can't can't agree with Dame in that, or most players who feel like it's owed after signing an extension to be traded to where they want. But I'm interested to hear what Mike thinks over there. What you got?
Let's remember Scottie Pippen was also a trailblazer at one time.
He was, and that team went to the conference championship game 7.
Yeah.
That team went further. That team almost
Shit,
got
I'll
to the
take Iljunas Sabonis.
Yes, that team. Was
Yeah,
loaded.
seriously.
Yes.
So for me, I think we're all kind of in agreement here. I don't think GMs and owners and all that are obligated or required, to trade the player where they want. But I agree with what John said in the sense that I think with some guys it's situational. Dame, 100%. Don't sign that if you think there's even a shot you're leaving Portland at any point by trade. A, don't sign a 6-year deal, and B, make sure you negotiate it in a no trade clause if you want to go where you want to go. So I agree with that. The other example that popped into my head, being a baseball guy, was the beginning of the year. There was talk because the Reds were supposed to be absolutely terrible that Joey Votto may end up getting moved for his own sake, and it was because he wanted specifically to go to the Blue Jays because he's Canadian, he's from the Toronto area, so he wants to play back home.
Mm-hmm.
He's also about to enter his age. If he's not already 40, he's going to turn 40 before next season, and he's made no indication that he's planning on retiring. So I think he, unlike Dame, is in a situation, and the Reds, they're good, so they're not going to move him now, and I don't know if they're ever going to trade him now if they remain this good.
Yeah, true.
But at the time, before the season started, the Reds were not supposed to be good. They were supposed to be in a rebuild. They were supposed to be bringing up a lot of prospects, so Votto might get moved by the trade deadline. So it was, well, are they going to send him to Toronto? And I think in that case, you can send him to Toronto. You can do right by Joey Votto in that sense, because if you're in a rebuild, you just want prospects back, and you're trading a 40-year-old first baseman. So you can afford in that case to, like I said, do quote unquote do right by him and still accomplish something for the franchise. You're still going to get something. In that sense, I would expect Toronto was going to give you back essentially what most teams are going to give you back. You're not going to get a high-level prospect for a 40-year-old first baseman. So in that sense, you can do right by him. But in general, it's a business. You want to go where you want to go. That's what no trade clauses got put in for.
But that's ultimately saying that Toronto would want him. That's where I don't understand.
Well, that's true. That's true.
All because you have a young stud at first in Vlad Guerrero, so you're going to put Joey Votto, and then you got a great DH hitter in Toronto, so you're going to put there. That's why I said it's all situational when you're looking at that. Yeah. Is the fact that each sport is different. NFL, it just depends on the position, right? We're only seeing like probably maximum 6 year. I think Patrick Mahomes is the first one that signed that long. Remember Patrick Mahomes deal was like crazy. I think it's like $500 million over like 10 years or something like that, or 12 years. It's like crazy. But like baseball, they sign these 12, 13-year contracts, and if Joey Votto really wanted to go home, he would have signed that contract a long time ago when he was a free agent. In my head, I think like, why should we like respect him now? And what if our better situation is we're going to send him to San Francisco, where they're going to give us more prospects than Toronto's going to give me. So that's where I don't understand these players who try to stand on and I get it. You bring in billions of dollars for these organizations, but like you also have to. I also was mentioning this to all three of you at one point, that you have to do what's right for the organization for the future. Jamie, I agree with you. You have to play for now, but you also have to play for the future, right? Like sports isn't going anywhere. And are you just going to be a dumpster fire of a team in the league every single year? So I feel like, when you're talking about these players who say, hey, you should respect me. I stayed here all these years.
Mm-hmm.
What
does that do for me, though?
You committed to it. So why is it my problem that you committed to this in free agency? Like, don't put that back on me because you committed to these. So, like, I know we were talking about Dame because I think that's the biggest spotlight right now, and that's, like, the biggest player. But there's been other players that have said this. Like you said, Joey Votto has said this. If the Reds weren't good, there's been NHL stars that have said this. NHL contracts are a little weird, and MLB contracts are a little weird because they have minor league systems and everything, where the NBA and NFL is kind of different, where it's just that's it.
But let's look at a different aspect of this. Which is over in Europe with UEFA, which is a governing body for football or soccer over there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It actually benefits the teams if someone like, let's say, Kylian Mbappe a couple of years ago was like, I'm out. I want to play for Madrid. That's my dream team. But then they were like, no. We're going to bring the players that you need. So here comes Neymar, here comes Messi, whatever it is.
Right.
But at the time, if they were like, fine, do it, but Real Madrid's going to have to pay us 150 million euro transfer fee, Madrid would have paid it. If they were like, hey, Mbappe's on the market like that, Madrid would have given that up because they get that money back instantly. So
Oh, yeah.
it depends on how you look at certain sports too, because it would benefit Paris Saint-Germain at that time to be like, well, shit, we'll take that 150 million transfer fee and we'll go and buy 3 or 4 amazing players to rebuild around. They might not have the impact of Mbappe, but we complete our team and maybe compete to win trophies because it ain't working out with him right now.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you look at the sport and how that would actually, in that case, benefit the team to say, like, you know what, you don't want to play with us? Fine. We're going to force either Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, one of the big teams, Man City, one of the big teams in Europe to say, hey, we'll pay the money for that transfer fee, and that benefits them to bring in a multitude of players with that money to bolster up the team's depth.
I think the baseball one too drives me nuts because there's no salary cap.
Right.
And like you can sign whoever the hell you want, like however much. And I hate the fact that they keep saying, "Oh, these owners are poor." It's like, okay, well, yeah, you're making like $2 or $3 billion.
Right.
I
mean, yeah, like
okay, you're poor. I forgot.
Yeah, it's the poor thing for baseball is like the Rays and like Royals and Marlins and all the smaller paying teams owners are poor compared to the Steinbrenners and Steve Cohen and the Dodgers ownership, and like but they're poor compared to them. Or poor.
Well, sad part is those 3 teams except the Royals, those 2 teams except the Royals are in a playoff contention, potentially contending for a World Series title now.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like player development and scouting actually matter.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, I think that with that sense is the fact is that they're too scared to bring guys up. And that's what I was saying to you before.
There's that too, yeah.
They don't bring guys up when it's necessary. The Rays are not. They're like, come on up. If you won't work out, we'll send you right back down.
Right.
So like those type of teams they spend that much money, but if they bring up a guy that's in AA, it's like, what are you doing? You get scrutinized by all the Yankees fans. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement that I think players ultimately don't get the respect, don't deserve the respect in a sense.
They think. Right.
They think they should when it comes to trading, because you do have the power when it comes to free agency. You chose to resign. But one sign I'm looking for today is Grandpa Jay changing up his little bets of the week to Grandpa Jay's locks of the week. So I'm interested to hear that, Grandpa Jay. Take it away, brother.
All right, my friends, we are talking about the lock of the week. Since we are limited, this is going to get a lot more fun once football season starts, because I will have some not so predictable locks of the week where people might be thinking, is this guy for real? But you got to respect the knowledge. I'm going to go on the obvious bandwagon here. Orioles hosting the Mets over the weekend. We all know what just happened over the trade deadline. We got Dean Kramer pitching for the Orioles. He had a no decision in his last outing, but he had 7 strikeouts, controlled the whole game. He's won 3 prior to that. I see them sweeping the Mets this weekend. So my lock of the week is whatever day you want to take Baltimore, be it Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, be my guest, because I'm calling a sweep this weekend at home for them to continue to not just try to pull away from the Rays, who are same wins, but the Rays have 3 more losses at this point. They'll have 4 after tonight. Trying to pull away and see if they can win that division. So a big weekend for them to make sure they take care of business in interleague play. Give me the Orioles to sweep the Mets. Take them on any night you want, or go ahead and take the sweep. That is my lock of the week.
Tune in to the socials. We'll post that here after this. He's locking it down. Grandpa Jay's lock of the week. Football should be interesting once we get into football, basketball, hockey. We got all the sports rolling.
I'm taking soccer too, so I'm throwing it all in there. You know me.
I said football. But that's Grandpa Jay's Lock of the Week. Make sure you tune into our socials. We'll post it here right after the show, so make sure you tune in. But fellas, we got some great topics tonight of the trade deadline. But speaking about great things, the Hall of Fame game starts tomorrow, and we got the Hall of Fame induction on Saturday or Sunday, one of the 2 days.
Mhm.
We did this a couple weeks ago for baseball edition, but we're going to drop it right now. Are they a Hall of Fame edition? How it's going to work, we're going to go around. We're going to say a player, and we're going to say if they're a Hall of Famer or not and why. So just going to go around the horn, and I'm going to go to Mikey Mike right next to me. Pass it
Okay.
over.
Okay. Pass it on over. Got it. Received.
Exactly.
So this is I was kind of excited when I thought of this, because it's an interesting case that to put out there. So guys, I want to know, is Andrew Luck a Hall of Famer?
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yes,
What do you want to go first?
Trey, you can go first.
Nope. I'm just gonna say it like that. It's not even shade Andrew Luck. I mean, I thought it was good, but I know it may sound so awkward. Actually, I was a big Andrew Luck fan, actually, but at the end of the day, the longevity, it just wasn't there. And if he would have kept playing at the pace he was playing at, great, he would have been there. But I mean, basically, and I never get into Pro Bowls too much, but he's only a 4-time Pro Bowler, no All Pros.
Mhm.
I think he had a comeback player of the year once,
Yeah.
but I mean, we have no Super Bowl appearances, no conference championship appearances. I mean, he was really good, but then he had a couple seasons where he really was hurt. So I ultimately, with me, a lot of things, and this is I say to before, a lot of for me with Hall of Fame, it has to do with some longevity. It's not about somebody's quick peak. When you have a quick peak, that is what like your Ring of Honor is for. So like, should he maybe go in the Colts Ring of Honor? Probably so. So you go in the NFL Hall of Fame? No, because at the end of the day, Andrew Luck, majority of years, probably wasn't really a top 5 quarterback in the league. He only had a few years in the league in general. So, unfortunately for Andrew, I mean, I know he's a really nice guy. He compliments you when you want to sack him and everything, but I just can't put him in Hall of Fame. How you feel about it, Jay?
I wish I could do my best Andrew Luck impersonation right now, but my throat
Just
is
do
not
Kermit
good enough.
just do Kermit the Frog, but like
I'll
a
just-
dial back from
I
Mahomes.
had a really great work. Look, the guy
There
was
you go. That's not bad.
electrifying when he came in his rookie year. Him and RG3 pretty much took the league over by storm. It may have been one of the best tandems in terms of rookie quarterbacks showing the potential that they both had. For me, it was I don't remember 2 rookies coming in and doing that ever in a season like that. And I think that was the tease for us. Is like, is he really taking over from the great Peyton Manning? And is this what we can expect? I think it was a true tease for Colts fans as well. I think it's more the follow up, right? So you have a top 5 quarterback of all time. You're trying to follow up the act. It hasn't really been done in NFL history where you could step into the shoes and fill them. I think the only 2 that may have done it are Aaron Rodgers and Steve Young, given they took over from Brett Favre and Joe Montana. So I think it was too hard for him to fill those shoes to be considered a Hall of Famer because he would have had to come close to what Peyton Manning did, who arguably, other than Dan Marino, the best regular season quarterback of all time, maybe. So that alone, I think, almost put him on this pedestal of, hey, you better come close to this. I'm not too sure we can talk about your career being an all-time career to get you into Canton. So I'm gonna have to say no as well. Just like you, Trey, I think he's a great guy. I think he did a great job at probably maybe one of the better leaders. I think they didn't get enough credit for being a great leader. You didn't hear anything about him or the team. No controversy while he was there. Everybody was just kind of happy to play there. No players were begging to leave the organization. So I think very much on the Tebow bandwagon of a highly religious individual as well. I think him and Philip Rivers. So I unfortunately will have to pass on him if I had to vote. John?
Yes, Tim Tebow.
No, unfortunately, he does not have enough time in the league. I mean, his stats were pretty incredible for only 6 years. 23,000 yards, 171 touchdowns, 60% completion rating, still higher than Eli Manning. Just throwing out there. But unfortunately, no, he's not a Hall of Famer. Some crazy stat I was looking at. He was sacked in the 6 years he played. He was sacked 174 times.
Yeah.
So 41 in
Bad
his
line.
first season, 32 in his
I would have to
second,
say at least 40 in his rookie year, right? So
41, yeah. And he still had a 65.6 QBR, which isn't awesome, but I mean, shit, he had 18 interceptions, 23 touchdowns. I mean, I don't know. I can't see him being in there. He's just not enough time, and that's no fault of his. I think if he was sitting here, he'd probably say the same thing.
Was he in the Dwight Freeney era where Freeney was still there on that defense when he came in?
I think he was just leaving.
There he
Freeney
is.
would've
Yeah.
been
Freeney was just like leaving, I think. But the Colts, he never had a playoff game.
He did.
He did.
He did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I never had.
Comeback.
And
game.
his rookie.
Oh, that's right. Because I'm looking at his stats and I'm not seeing any playoff stats. So I'm like, did he not have a game?
Yeah.
I thought he did, but Mikey Mike, this is your guy. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'd vote him in. Because, and I think you guys all made great points.
Because Eli Manning.
No, not because Eli Manning. Yeah, but if there was anything that sealed me disagreeing with you, it was that comment. No, first of all, I don't understand why it's always Eli Manning and it's never anyone else's players ever. But anyway,
Because everybody else's players are undoubtedly Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Even the guy they traded for him.
we always talk about, I'm not getting into this right now.
Yeah.
We'll get into it another time. Andrew Luck is the topic of conversation here, and yes, I would vote him in because, to your guys' point, I understand he doesn't have the longevity, but the NFL is a league that is very difficult to have longevity. And yes, he's a quarterback, but the style of play he had isn't the kind of quarterbacks that just stand in the pocket and get blocked. And yes, he got sacked a ton of times, and I'm surprised he played 6 seasons with the amount of times he got sacked. To that point, 6 seasons. Trey, you said he's only a 4-time Pro Bowler. He had 4 Pro Bowls in 6 years. I think that's pretty good. Also, in those 6 years,
I'm sorry.
All right.
Well, I just remember last week discussing about a certain MVP who.
Yeah, I was about to say,
But
you were just saying.
But we didn't ask if Cam Newton's a Hall of Famer, did we?
I'm just saying you kind of blew that guy down. So
Okay.
Anyway,
in their first 6 years in the league, which is unfortunately all that Luck ended up having by his own decision in the end, but rightly so, I think. He had 23,671 yards, which is 4th all time in your first 6 seasons. 4 Pro Bowls, tied for 7th. 171 touchdowns, that's tied for 3rd through 6 seasons. And he had 20 game-winning drives, which is 2nd, tied with Peyton Manning and Jake Plummer for 2nd all-time, most all-time through your first 6 seasons.
Jake Plummer.
I know, Jake Plummer, that's a name.
What the fuck?
No, it's a name.
If you're in a category with Jake Plummer, I don't know if you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he's also in that category with Peyton Manning.
Yeah, his forehead belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Alone.
Clean his forehead.
There's gonna be two separate busts.
Busts.
One just a forehead, and then the rest is it.
All right, I got a question for you guys before we move on. Like, why are we always utilizing Pro Bowl as an as like a stat? Like, I don't get that. Like, shouldn't all team? Like, I feel like
pro. No,
all pro should be more, right? Like,
and that's
everyone.
Why I said no, because Pro Bowl doesn't
all pro over Pro Bowl because people turn it down.
Well, he's 2-time All Pro.
Or did he did have 2 All Pros?
He had 2 All Pros, and that his first All Pro was his rookie season when he went off, and then he actually got they gave him All Pro his last year, which is when he won the Comeback Player of the Year.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I was just looking on Football Reference.
Oh, okay. I was on the stat list I'm looking at, but I'll go with your reference.
I mean, let's see. So, do you feel like Cam Newton's a Hall of Famer?
Why are we going there?
Because of the whole thing.
Because of last week. Last week, Mike was saying that Cam Newton. My guy? No. I'm just asking Mike because, like, comparatively to Cam Newton, I mean, Cam Newton had a better career and he was cut down because of being sacked and being able to run out of the pocket, and not having great opportunities. And I forget the topic of last week that brought that up, but
overrated or underrated?
Overrated or underrated?
Yeah.
He said he's overrated. So, like, that's why I was just asking, because
with a pylon doing a front flip, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, like, he was one given the hits and had to escape the pocket a lot of times. But that's for another day. Mikey Mike says Andrew Luck is in the Hall of Fame.
I'd vote for him.
Andrew Luck, come on the show and let us know.
Yes,
you're a Hall of Famer.
But yes, please come on the show and let us know if you think you're a Hall of Famer. He'll say no, though. He's really humble. Even if he thinks he is, he'll say no. But I want to hear next from Grandpa Jay in his return to the show.
Well, yes, thank you for welcoming me back. And no luck for you there, Mikey, but I will turn to the Giants of New York,
Oh,
the
please
football
don't.
Giants of New York.
Uh-oh.
Please
And I will
don't.
reference somebody who is going to be a very interesting individual, not the name you think. I'm gonna
Okay.
throw
Tiki Barber.
a twinsy to my favorite Ronde, Tiki Barber.
Okay. Yeah, that was the other
Yeah.
one.
Played 154 games, didn't have that early of success, left right before the Super Bowl. Most people thought that's why they won.
Yep.
Career rushing touchdowns 55, about 10,000, roughly 10,500 career yards, so over 10 grand. Over 5,000 receiving yards and over 500 receptions in his career. One kickoff return for a touchdown, but didn't play in that many playoff games. I think only 6 or 7 games. Had one touchdown, less than 500 yards, less than 200 receiving yards. So do you guys think that Tiki Barber belongs in the NFL Hall of Fame?
Who do you want
Trey?
to go first? Oh, sure.
No, once again, same reason. Very similar. No, wouldn't put him there. Why? I needed more longevity. First half of his career, Tiki Barber was doing a lot of splitting. I know he had the Ron Dane thing where he was kind of splitting carries and whatnot. And I mean, that's not his fault, but at the same time, I do got to look at this. When you look at those first few years, I mean, 511 yards, 166 yards, 258 yards. Those are basically throwaway seasons. Yeah, on the back end, he stopped fumbling finally, which I know was a big thing that the Giants fans hate him for. But he is in the Giants Ring of Honor, and I think it's one of those situations again where it makes sense he's in the Giants Ring of Honor. He should be because he's probably one of the Giants' best running backs all time. But when we look at Hall of Fame, I always got to look at this as the best players in the history of the NFL. When I think of Tiki Barber, this isn't somebody I'm going to be running to tell my kids, like, man, you just don't understand what it was like to look at Tiki Barber. You know what I'm talking about when I'm looking at that? I'm talking about like Adrian Peterson coming out of air. I'm even talking even more, as much as they probably aren't even as talented, even somebody like a Frank Gore, just because he was so consistent at doing the time. But for me, Tiki, it just was not consistent enough. And a lot of the thing with Tiki, which is going to always boost him, people, is he played for the New York Giants. He played in New York. He ends up getting on TV. It makes him extra famous. It was cool that he has a twin, and he has all this extra story. But if I take the exact same guy with the exact same story, minus the twin, and let's say we hypothetically throw him on, I don't know, let's say the Jacksonville Jaguars, we wouldn't feel the same about him because honestly, Fred Taylor is also in the air and he was better than him. And I don't see people out here begging for Fred Taylor to get in the Hall of Fame. So no, I would not put Tiki in the Hall of Fame for me personally. I think I know John's answer. I know his love for the Giants, but I want to hear what John thinks.
Fred Taylor.
It's not even my hate for. It's not even like I hate the Giants or anything because they haven't really done much to the Eagles over the last 25 years. But
Okay.
you know, ultimately, Tiki. This is one actually.
Go on, Mikey.
This is actually one that was on my list. So like, it was back and forth because he did have 10,000 rushing yards, 5,000 receiving, 500 receptions. But I agree with Trey. Like when I look at top 25 running backs of all time, like he's not even in the top 100 in my opinion. He's not even in, he's not even in that list. Like, so if you're not in that grade, it's like, yes, Giants Ring of Honor, Giants Hall of Fame, whatever, but we got to look at this as a total scope of the game, not just look so minuscule into the last 20 years. Like, this is the entirety of football. And then would you take Tiki on any of those Super Bowl teams at any point versus the running backs that were there? So that's where you have to look at it. And I agree with Trey with that because, like, when you're looking at football, like, you really want the best of the best. And he was a great for a little bit, but it was tough. It was tough because some games, like, yeah, he would have, like, maybe 2 or 3 fumbles a game. And it's like, damn. It's like you can't hold on to the ball. His brother, a different story. Rondé he was locked down. I mean, he was great. I think he was a safety, Rondé, right? Safety or free safety?
Sometimes they played him at corner, but most of his career was a safety.
But like you knew, like Rondé Barber. Like if you talk about corners or safeties in the league, you think of Rondé Barber. When I think of top 20 running backs ever, Tiki doesn't even break into there. There's probably 70 more that I can talk about. But that's why, just because of that. I mean, there's no disrespect. I mean, he was a great running back of our time. Just looking at like the sense of like who he was on the Giants. And I think, yeah, exactly. If he was playing for the Jaguars, we never know his name. So, Mikey Mike, what do you think?
Well,
about your boy there in blue?
well, so first I'd like to say, Trey, I will say I checked again. I misread Football Reference. They were saying the AP awards that Luck was. I just saw the AP next to it.
He's nominated.
Oh, okay. So
It was
but
the
he wasn't.
Associated Press Awards, not All Pro, and
Not the
then an
All-Pro.
award. So
Gotcha.
I misread it. So no, he's not.
Oh, that's
Luck
cool.
was not an All Pro. But obviously, as a Giants fan, I have a bit of a soft spot in my heart for Tiki Barber and what he was able to contribute to the organization. I definitely think he is deserving of being in the Ring of Honor and in our Hall of Fame and honored with the successful teams. But yeah, he left before the year. He retired in the offseason before they won the Super Bowl. And actually, I'd like to thank Tiki Barber for that Super Bowl because he criticized Eli Manning as far as his toughness and being a leader. And that season, if I watched a documentary of that team and how poorly they started off, and it was, oh yeah, once Tiki said that, Eli started speaking out more. He started, gutting out, like he gutted out a shoulder injury and blah, 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 all that. Tiki gets hurt in his career by the fact that his best 3 years were his last 3 years. Like you said, he finally fixed a lot of the ball security problems he had. He started picking up 1,500 or plus yards a year, started upping his touchdowns, and then he left. So if Tiki had been the Tiki of his last 3 seasons for a majority of his career, I think he would probably have put up the numbers and recognition that may have gotten him in.
No doubt.
But even as a Giants fan, I have to say, I wouldn't vote him in. Hall of Very Good. Yeah, I would put him in as a Hall of Very Good running back, not Hall of Fame. Jay?
Take it home, Jay.
I'm on the fence with this one because I don't know the numbers, but I don't know how many. I mean, now the game's evolved, but at that time, how many running backs had 10,000 rushing yards and 5,000 receiving yards? I think it was kind of coming out that Marshall Faulk era of running backs can do a multitude of things that spread the ball around. I think other than the fumbles, Tiki proved to have a lot more talent in his last couple of years than what he proved in the beginning. I kind of base things off of where a player can take their career, not so much where they can start their career. I think that proves a lot more about the play in the NFL. They say a lot of players go out to a hot start and there's just no longevity. They don't take care of their bodies. They don't take care of their minds. They kind of lose that passion for the game. Somebody else comes in and threatens their job. They don't see that as motivation. They see it as a security or insecurity issue, I should say. So I kind of credit the guy for that and having the mental fortitude to turn it on. I think also having his brother had such great success and being able to confide in him. Was like, yo, bro, you could do this. And both of them were superstars. I think out of Vatek coming into the league.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think he deserves consideration. I think if we're looking at where his career could have gone, but you can't base it off of that. You just have to go off what we saw.
Right.
Unfortunately, it would have been great to see him play in the Super Bowls, have a great playoff run. Maybe that could have swayed it one way and be like, look, this guy helped carry them to that Super Bowl, be one of the greatest teams of all time. You kind of get that nod in your favor. Him not having that opportunity, I'm going to have to say no.
So 4 no's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, to his credit, I mean, he did play in a Super Bowl. He got their ass kicked, but he played.
Yeah, he did. He did play in a Super Bowl.
It was against that amazing fucking Ravens team.
He wasn't going to be. I don't even think he was the starter.
I forgot he was in the league then.
Yeah, I don't think he was the starter then. I think they were still starting Ron Dane.
They were still starting Ron Dane.
Yeah.
So I mean, even that's he's
had a big
4
role.
years in the league and it wasn't a starter. So
He wasn't a major contributor by then, no.
all right, Jay, who you want next?
You, my brother.
All righty. So I had a list of players, and I was trying to go back and forth between all, and I narrowed it down to at least 6. But I'm only going to go with 1 today, and that is the guy that just left retirement, and that is Mr. Jimmy Grant.
I figured you might.
So Trey Day on the block. Give me is he a Hall of Famer or not?
I have a question first before I even answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
What fucking position does he play?
Tight end.
He's not a Hall of Famer then. That motherfucker's outside playing receiver most of the time. And he's supposed to be a tight end.
But that's all the tight end positions now, though.
No,
that's most of the tight end positions.
It was not at the time because he was the leader running the ball a little bit more often. And he is outside. He wasn't blocking or anything such as that in a league that did actually still run the ball at the time. I mean, with Jimmy Grant, and the crazy part about this is Jimmy Graham probably did evolutionize the game of football a little bit because he was the first kind of tight end we kind of threw out there and was like, hey, let's line him up at receiver and just throw the ball up. And for that is really sweet that he got to do that. But at the end of the day, he might be the hardest one of everybody y'all just named because I do take in the did you revolutionize the game in any Hall of Fame discussion. I actually think he did. But then I think ultimately, I'm going to give more credit for the revolutionizing of the game there, Sean Payton, because he recognized it and put him out there. But at the same time, one of the greatest weaknesses of the Saints was when they had to bring him in to come block or actually bring him outside or bring him from the outside in next to the tackle. And then he's out here getting his ass kicked and they can't run off tackle at that point. So for that point, I do have to fault Jimmy a lot. The back half of his career is basically, oh, Jimmy Graham's in, we know they're passing. And that actually makes the team worse. So it's like putting that running back in or he's going to, or they got to be running. That guy can't pass block. Like that's actually a hindrance to the team. So ultimately, I don't think I'm going to put Jimmy Graham in, partly because I don't know how much he actually made his teams better, even if he did have these crazy stats and things such as that. And it has to be still a factor in any Hall of Famers. Did you make your team better, or was there a better value of something we could have used? Because this was the current day, they probably would have him either playing a bigger receiver or he would be a specialty tight end, not a full tight end. And that's something they've kind of figured out over time. There's a reason why we look at Travis Kelce in the way we do, or a Shannon Sharp. When we look at these Hall of Fame tight ends, we look at Ozzie Newsome. We go back and we look at the Hall of Fame tight ends. It's because the Hall of Fame tight ends were in Gronk when he will be Hall of Famer. Those guys did everything. Jimmy Graham did not, so it's going to be hard for me. And I always give this analogy. I'm walking through the Hall of Fame. I'm showing the kid, hey, let me tell you about this dude. Here's Gronk. Let me tell you about this guy. Oh, that's the great Shannon Sharp. Let me tell you about this guy over here. That's Travis Kelce. And then I get to Jimmy Graham. They're like, let me tell you about him. I'm like, yeah, he can catch. What else? He can catch. And then that's just in the discussion. Oh, was he tough? Part of being a tight end is you got to be a bad, tough motherfucker. And that's part of being a tight end for real. And I don't look at him like that. I look at him like a finesse receiver who's in a big body. So for me, Jimmy Graham is going to have to be a no. But how are you feeling about this, Mike?
So I pulled up Jimmy Graham's stats, and I think it's another case where he and Tiki can go in together in the Hall of Very Good, but not Hall of Fame. And that's because, to your point, Trey, his main skill set, finesse receiver in a big tight end body, right?
Yep.
Great awards to his credit: 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, once as a first team, once as a second team. However, Jimmy Graham, as the finesse receiver in a big body whose main job was to catch the football from Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or whatever quarterback he had, eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards in a season twice and has not done it since 2013. He started off, I said it last week for, I think I actually said it for Cam last week. His star burned very bright when it burned, but it burned out quickly. He's a good player, not a Hall of Fame player. Jay?
Yeah, if I'm not considering you top 3 for my fantasy as a tight end, you ain't a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry.
Oof.
No, unreal though. Unreal. I feel sometimes when you don't live up to your hype, that hurts your reputation a lot. Coming out of the U, he was seen as a phenomenal athlete, and the stuff he did there, to his credit, he did some phenomenal things. And to Trey's credit as well, talking about how he sort of revolutionized how to use that position. It may have also screwed some teams up in terms of how they started looking at drafting tight ends, because instead of looking at them as a total badass who could come in and do the job to make the running back have a bit more of a hole to get through, be that extra person on the line so somebody's not getting to that quarterback, really do the nitty gritty things that makes or keeps drives alive other than catch the ball. You can't give him any credit for that. And so I just don't think Jimmy Graham positioned himself as somebody who was a game changer. I remember personally a game or two where he did that more early in his career, where he was kind of mossing everybody. Other than that, I mean, okay, you have a couple of great highlights. There's probably 100 players of great highlights, but we're not going to mark them down as, career guys at that position that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, giving a speech in the ugliest color in the history of mankind. And by the way, right, should they, here's my thing, right? Isn't it too friggin' hot to have these goddamn things outdoor? Like, I swear they're going to invite one of the oldie goalies back there, because I saw it in MLB. Everybody's like literally just patting their face down the whole time. of these fuckers is gonna get a stroke one time and they're gonna be like, shit, we made a mistake. We should have moved.
Well, if it was anyone, I thought it would be Ray Lewis. He was sweating through that jacket. He sweated through 2 jackets. He had 2 jackets on. He had his jacket and the Hall of Fame, and that shit still was. It was a new color of yellow. So I guess it's my.
I'm all about the nose tonight. I hope Trey brings somebody up who I can support when he goes. But John, your guy, where are you putting Jimmy, on the in or the out?
He's in the Hall of Fame. Reason being, he is a tight end. At the end of the day, that's his position on the field. I get the blocking aspect, but if you're going to say that about people, Travis Kelce is a terrible blocker. Now, granted, we say Travis Kelce is a great tight end, right? We can draft him in your fantasy. But he even says it. I watch his podcast every day. Him and Jason even go back and forth saying how bad he is at blocking. He's a terrible blocking tight end. I can't say that Travis Kelce is going to be one of the best blocking tight end, but I can say he's probably going to be the best tight end in the league. I got to put Jimmy Graham up there because of like what Trey said. He revolutionized the game of the tight end and how they are athletes and not just linemen who can catch a few seam routes. They can run routes. So I feel like he really helped catapult that for other receivers, like your boy from the Giants, Mike, that went down to Jaguars.
Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram. A lot of our receivers. Zach Ertz ended up becoming like that. A lot of tight ends are become like that. So if we're going to look at it like that, so when you're looking at Jimmy Graham, he's number 7 in yards as a tight end at 8,500. In front of him is Greg Olsen, Gronk, Shannon Sharp, Travis Kelce, Antonio Gates, Jason Witten, Tony Gonzalez, who all of those guys are Hall of Famers. So he is 5th in touchdowns with 85. He is 7th in receptions with 713. And he's played in 184 games, and that number is going to go up this year because he's playing again.
What does that rank him? How much does that rank him? Top 3 of all time? Games played by a tight end, or top?
Games played or receptions?
Games played.
184. It's like in the top 15 or 20. I think it's around there.
So that makes his numbers not look too inflated then.
It doesn't make. Remember, he missed a few years for torn ACL. He tore his ACL when he was with Seattle, I believe, or Green, one of the two. But if you help catapult something that a lot of these tight ends now are now not really good. I mean, Gronk was kind of like the last old school Tony Gonzalez type tight end, in my opinion. He could block very well, but also could do what kind of Travis Kelce was doing, go down the field and catch a pass, but then also block. So, but I think that also hurt Gronk too, because I think that, him blocking a 300-pound and being not as heavy as he should have probably been as a tight end position. I think ultimately that's the one position in football, and that's why I picked him, because that's why I picked the tight end, because I think the one thing in football is that position has changed so much over the last 15 to 20 years that we can't compare it to the old days, because the old days are the tight ends that exactly what Trey said. Now, Trey, if we're going off of if all those guys before him were great blockers and great everything, okay, then I'm saying, all right, but looking at Shannon Sharp towards the end of his career, he was playing pretty much the slot receiver position. He was a great blocker when he was first in the league. I mean, Shannon's a big dude. I'm not going to mess with Shannon, but what I'm saying? Like, he started playing the slot receiver when he got to Baltimore. He started playing that position. So you can't really hurt Jimmy for doing that and being in that position. So I'm going to put him in because top 7 in yardage, and that's probably going to go up here this year. And be a key asset for the. I don't understand coming back on the return.
But you know what my pushback would be to that? On his top 7 now, that's probably because he was one of the first times they started throwing to. You're right.
Yeah.
If we look back in about 5 to 6 years, he's going to be right off the top 10 because now they are throwing to more of these people.
Right.
Is really that thing because he wasn't that consistent. As I think Mike pointed out, he only has 2,000-yard seasons. When you look at where I would say he hurt the position is because what do we talk about fantasy football? We don't even value the tight end half as when we do the draft because most of the tight ends are getting 500 yards or whatnot like that.
Right.
It's partly because of guys like that because we can't keep you on the field. So if I can't keep you on the field and you're off in position, then that makes it very hard for your value. When we look at a running back, we value the running backs more who can play 3 downs. We value the quarterback so much because he touches the ball every play. We value the offensive line because they're every play. That's why those positions we value them so much. But for me, I guess, and I didn't even realize this because I went first. The 2 times only having 1,000 yards only 2 times, that is kind of alarming to me for him to only have 1,000 yards 2 times, as much as I thought he probably even had more, even at the time I was saying it, just because it felt like he was getting targeted like so much at the time, especially knowing the Saints didn't have a true number one receiver for his years with the Saints. With Seattle, the big thing was we're going to get him, we're going to put him with Russell Wilson, and it's going to change. Shit changed when we got to Seattle. The offense was still the same. They still ran the ball because, and partly why he couldn't stay on the field there is because that was a run-first team, and his ass couldn't get in there and help run and stay on the field, which also, once again, devalued him. So I just think what you were saying, I know maybe top 7 at this moment, but I just think so many guys are going to, in the end, end up actually hopping him pretty quick to the point where he won't be even in the top 10 for receiving yards for probably much longer.
But do you also consider him like a
I looked at that as well because I had a feeling you would say that. Hold on, Jay, one second. I knew you were gonna. I had a feeling you were gonna say that. And the only guy that I see that's on the list right now that could hop him is Zach Ertz, and I don't think Zach Ertz is gonna get. I mean, he might. I mean, he might get 1,300 yards this year. Who knows? But I don't see it. But to your point, I understand what you're saying. Eventually down the road, those numbers will probably be broken, most likely because the tight end position has evolved so much now that it's more of a slot receiver position in a sense. So we look at that as like the third best option on a team now. Where you're looking at it. That's basically what you're saying. Jay, what were you saying?
Yeah. I was just saying, like, would you consider him a bit of a journeyman? And like, how many journeymen have actually made it to the Hall of Fame? Right? Like, if you look at something like that, like if you're valuable to your team, they ain't really looking to shop you that much because you hold too much value to be considered as a commodity they want to get rid of, unless the price is right and it's more of that scenario. So, I mean, if you really look over the history of the league and who's been inducted, like, you know, certain great players, yes, you played for 2 teams like Reggie White, but you stayed on your second one. You didn't go anywhere after you left your first team. So can a journeyman really be considered a commodity to be considered one of the best at his position to go into the Hall of Fame? I mean, right now he's just team hopping, you know, over the last.
I think that's a soft now in the sense of saying like that's a reason why you're going to keep him out is because he played for too many teams. Because
no, I'm saying that's why I keep it out. It is kind of alarming to think like, you know, if you're that good and you're Hall of Fame material, they're not letting your ass go anywhere, really. And the second team that gets
I get what Jay's saying because I think
I get what you mean.
Back to a point I was saying earlier. Did he actually make his teams better? I don't know if he did, which is why I think the Saints. I remember when that trade happened, everybody was like, "Oh my God, they traded Jimmy Graham," and it was like, I can't believe he did it. And the Saints were perfectly fine. They looked at the same team the next year. Then he gets to Seattle, and we think it's going to change, and didn't shit change. He leaves Seattle, didn't shit change. He gets to Green Bay, and they're like, Aaron Rodgers finally has a tight end, and didn't shit change. Like everywhere he goes, nothing seems to change when he shows up. And when I look at when we just named everybody else who said in front of him on that list, Tony Gonzalez shows up. The Falcons are now in the conference championship, the consistent playoff team. When he leaves from Kansas City there, Gronk goes to New England, and it changes all the sets that they can run at the time. Shannon Sharp shows up to Baltimore. Now they're trying to go for another Super Bowl, and that changed the game. I just, at no point did Jimmy Graham ever become this thing that really moved the bar for a team. And I just don't think you can put somebody in the Hall of Fame who didn't actually move the team's bar at that point.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense. I mean, like, I get what you mean. Like, but I do remember, like, a lot of the times when we would. I mean, obviously everything's breaking news. You know, Tom Brady stubs his toe. It's breaking news. You know, you know, it's like everything's breaking news nowadays. But I remember
news was breaking back then. This was 2014. We weren't on our phones as much 10 years ago. We didn't have Bleacher Report updated everything. That was a big deal because we all were like, "Oh my God, he's supposed to be one of the best tight ends in football." I can't believe they traded him. So that was like why I'm like, and we instantly like forgot about it. Some of people looked at the Saints as winning that trade because remember the Saints got back Max Unger as starting center, and they got back a first-round draft pick out of that trade. I think the Saints actually won that trade and got out on
in the long run. Yeah, they did. I mean, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I think we're looking at statistical. I mean, realistically, he probably would have had. I mean, he almost had 4 1,000-yard games. I mean, 982. He was 18 yards away. Come on, like, give him a break.
Yeah,
9 foot.
Okay, so
I know,
But even that year, this actually goes to part of where the knock is. He's always hurt. That year, he only started 9 games. He played 15, only started 9. He only finished start to begin in 9 games that year. Now, was that great for 9 games? Hell yeah, but longevity has to go into this.
Yeah.
And him being hurt is part of why we also don't value him as much. Because even if you, for as much shit we can talk about a Gronk, he was there when the Super Bowl was there. Gronk always still found a way, even if he got hurt, to get back on that field. There's plenty of lapses in Jimmy Graham's career. It's like, oh, Jimmy Graham's out of bed. But every week I remember getting on the fantasy football thing and being like, Jimmy Graham is a game time decision, stub toe. It was every week with that dude. He's in that same mode of Julio Jones, who I almost used for mine, but I didn't use him for mine. In that same mode every week, it's like game time decision.
All right, well, take it away then, Trey Day. Who is your
somebody to put in the Hall of Fame?
Well, it depends on who you're asking about this. I mean, I'll be interested to see what y'all all think. I got the person I picked is a quarterback. Still currently active in the league. I didn't go crazy off the board. No, I did not pick Roger Goodell since I did Bud Selig. We all know that asshole wouldn't go in the Hall of Fame. And if he hears this, I guess, we'll probably never get NFL sponsorship, but it is what it is. So the person I picked is currently still in the league. He's at ups, he's at downs. It depends on who you talk about. But the person I picked would be Matthew Stafford, quarterback of the St. Louis Rams. Or, my bad, LA Rams, wherever the hell they play now. Former quarterback of the Detroit Lions. But, Joe, let's see. Are you finally going to get your yes in the Hall of Fame, or is this a no in the Hall of Fame for you? Jamie.
Yes, Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Fame quarterback to me. And it's more based on the fact that he made absolutely an atrocious franchise somewhat relevant in the sense that they competed, except for the year where they didn't compete at all, of course. And I don't know if that taints his reputation that you're on one of the worst teams of all time. But I do believe that he's done enough in his career to have that consideration. He got the redemption by immediately after leaving Detroit, winning one in his first season. So
yeah, first season.
Yep.
Not even.
So
it was a trade.
That justified him just needing a new environment. And of course, they had one of the greatest defensive players of all time. I think that was more influential as to why they won that Super Bowl, and not given the quarterback play was that great in that game. But it doesn't mean he didn't lead them to the promised land, because he did have a great playoffs leading up to that particular Super Bowl. I think he has 3 tangible factors for me that make somebody in my consideration set somebody I have to consider at that position. One is your toughness. He definitely has that. The other is the ability to get to the ball to no-name players. So it didn't matter who the receiver was. He still found ways to get the ball in whoever's hands it was wearing the jersey. I don't think there was that many playmakers other than we know Megatron, of course, who didn't last that long. I think he only played with him for 2 seasons, if I'm not correct. I think it might be 2 years he was with him. So
Megatron?
He played longer too.
He was long. He was longer most of Megatron's career.
No, with Stafford.
Huh?
Yeah, he would have more than 2 with him.
Yeah.
You sure he didn't play? I thought he only played 2 or 3 seasons with Stafford.
Calvin Johnson? He played for a lot. I got you.
No, I'm not saying with Stafford, with Max.
Yeah, with Stafford. No,
with Stafford, he played most of his career with him.
Yeah, because the Lions.
Okay, I thought he only played a couple years.
2007 to 2015. Yeah, Matthew Stafford played 2009 to Yeah, so he only missed 2 years. Only 6 years.
Yeah. So I mean, he had one of the more influential receivers, but I don't think he was injured for a couple of those years too. So I don't know what the body of work is. Anyway, Stafford still got the third thing is still being a relevant name in the league despite not getting to the playoffs. So I know he based a lot of success on playoffs. He's finally had that with a ring, so that's the redemption as to why I put him over the edge. I just feel like if you're the quarterback for Detroit, who we know is apparently one of the worst franchises in sports, not just in the NFL, and somehow you have relevance, and even though it didn't translate to too many wins for your team, I have to give you the nod that like you were still able to make yourself a relevant name in the league, get paid, and win a ring eventually.
Okay.
So yes.
Who's next?
Mikey.
Okay. I'm happy you got to put someone in, Jay, and I'm happy that I get to too. Yes, Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Famer. I think that ring secured it for him as far as his accomplishments. I know we don't go by Pro Bowls a whole lot, but it's kind of really weird that he's only got 1, considering how good he's been. But being a stats guy, I will say this. He is 11th all-time in passing yards. He's 12th all-time in passing touchdowns. He's got the 26th highest passer rating in league history, and he ranks within like the top 30 to top 20 in most quarterback categories. He's always been a gamer. He's got a comeback player of the year to his credit. He has stayed, aside from last year, from the time he came back to last year, he had stayed pretty consistent with his health. He is a guy that I think made, to Trey's point from earlier, I think he's a quarterback that made his teams better. Yes, the Detroit Lions as a whole were not a great team, but I think he made them better. I don't think you can put any quarterback on that team, any of the 32 starting quarterbacks on that team, and they still have the kind of offense that they had, whether they have Calvin Johnson or not. Obviously, the ones that your Peytons and your Bradys and your Rodgers and like those levels, you probably could, but I think there was a good chunk of time when Stafford was a top 10 quarterback in the league. And so I think with the accumulation that he's been able to put together, the consistency he's been able to put together across the Lions and Rams, I think Stafford would get my vote 100%.
Nice.
John?
So he'll get into the Hall of Fame. The question is, do I think he's a Hall of Famer?
Right.
And do I think he's a Hall of Famer? No, I do not think he's a Hall of Famer. Even though he has 52,000 yards, 330 touchdowns. You said he's what, 11th all time?
Good enough for you?
11th all time.
Yes, he is 11th in passing, 12th in touchdowns.
Well, I already know he's going to be 12th in yards and 13th in touchdowns because Patrick Mahomes is going to pass him here.
Well, of course.
Probably in the next couple of years. Yeah. But like you just mentioned, like those type of guys, those Brady's, those Mannings, those Breezes that come to the team and make the team better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, I mean, he didn't really make the Lions better. I know the Lions weren't very good as a team. They didn't have a really terrible, but they were terrible, but they were like, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to watch the Browns every single year. Like, these are bad. Like, we actually thought some years were like, okay, where he had some playoff run, we saw the Matthew Stafford come off. Do I think he's a Hall of Famer? No, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer because I don't put him in that category. I don't put him in that category of saying that he can make a difference on a team. He went to a team that already went to a Super Bowl. You got to remember, Jared Goff brought the Rams to the Super Bowl.
No,
a couple years, bro.
Not Jared.
No, Jared Goff brought that team, led that team at quarterback to a Super Bowl. He had that team. He adopted that team. Cooper Kupp didn't do it. Wasn't on a team yet, I don't think.
What?
In 2018?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
was he?
Yeah.
Okay, but
brought them to that Super Bowl, not Jared Goff.
But Jared Goff was quarterback, Jamie. So, like, at the end of the day, Jared Goff, whoever was running that team at quarterback, but so is Matthew Stafford. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like he was a game manager, and that's it. Yes, he's played 13 years. He has 52,000 yards. He was a great game manager. He was not a Hall of Fame ass type quarterback. He went to a team that was already built for the Super Bowl, ready to go to a Super Bowl.
Okay, right. Jared Goff brought them to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford helped them get to the Super Bowl and win.
No, Cooper Kupp did.
Who was throwing him the ball?
Exactly my point. Like Jared Goff was throwing him the ball too.
Right. But with Goff at quarterback, they lost. With Stafford at quarterback, they won.
But they got beat by a Brady team. They beat a Bengals team. So like, there's a difference in teams right there. Number one, number two. Where you're looking at, you just made my point right there. Jared Goff was throwing it. You kept saying Cooper Kupp. If they don't have Cooper Kupp in that Super Bowl, they lose that Super Bowl. Making the catches that he made. The ones at the shoestring. The ones where he had to dive out and go grab the ball. If they don't have him catching those at his elite level, they don't win that Super Bowl, and the Bengals are hosting their title. You're a little Cooper Kupp. I'm giving you it to you, Jamie. Like, Cooper Kupp is great. He had me picking for fantasy. So, no, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's a great game manager. I think he's exactly like Eli Manning. He's a great game manager. won a Super Bowl because they had a great defense that backed him up and had great offensive threats around him that helped him out. Thank you, Trey. What do you think?
Mike, you look like you had an intriguing thought first.
Yeah, that game manager has more career passing yards than John Elway, Warren Moon, Fran Tarkenton, Dan Fouts, Joe Montana, and Johnny Unitas. Go on, Trey.
Warren, I tell you, I'm more passing yards than Warren Moon is a big deal.
Okay.
Joe Montana.
Warren Moon played in the CFL for part of the time. I mean, I'm not knocking. I'm just saying some of his career doesn't get as much as he could have if he would have been NFL.
Oh no, he would have easily been top.
Yeah,
10
he would have
before.
had more just in general.
Yeah.
He's the equivalent of somebody who gets hurt and you're like, damn, that guy would have more, but he
Right.
didn't. As a side note, this has nothing to do with this argument in this case, but unfortunately, the hard point with any of these things is stats, and this is always where it gets tricky with the NFL, especially with quarterback, is everything gets weighted. So when we look at this Dan Marino, Elway, every time we do one of these, we're gonna be like Matt Ryan has more stats than Matt Stafford has more stats than Kirk Cousins is gonna have more stats than John Elway, Joe Montana, all this. I don't think anybody on this room right now thinks Joe Montana or is not better than Kirk Cousins. Yeah, because these guys all get to pass the ball. I mean, okay, and I'll say this, I'm pretty sure you all agree, Dak Prescott is going to have probably Dan Marino numbers when we're all done with this. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure none of y'all, exactly. That's what the NFL is.
9 more interceptions.
Of course. And then he'll also probably be the NFL's all-time interception leader. But interesting one. I've been going back and forth about this one for years. And I mean, all the way back to when he was on the Lions and people had it. So Super Bowl, no Super Bowl, whatever. It's always been a back and forth thing for me. But for me, Matt Stafford, I have a very hard book. Matt Stafford for me is not a Hall of Famer. But I'll give you why he's not a Hall of Famer for me. So I don't really value Pro Bowls. You're right. Why I like to value is the All-Pro list, 0 All-Pros. I really, like I said, I don't value Pro Bowls, but the hard point even with a Pro Bowl is so many alternatives get in, and I find it's crazy that he couldn't even find a way in more than one time, even as an alternate, because you got to figure at some point, like he's playing and Aaron Rodgers is like, I'm not doing a Pro Bowl. Like, okay, let's go to the next guy. There's Matt Stafford. Why was he not the next guy up in a lot of these seasons to elevate this? So other things I like to do is I actually like to look at how do people play on a week-to-week basis. So when it comes to the NFL Offensive Player of the Week, in his whole career, 3. He was only the best player on the field 3 times in his entire career. Only 3 times we got done saying who was the best offensive player in the game in the NFC. My bad, not even NFL, just the NFC, just in that conference that week. Only 3 times do we ever find him to be, that type of guy. When we look at other things such as quarterback rating, that tells you that is a whole scope of how you play. When you look at the quarterback rating, you start to look at a number like 100. You say, and for stat guys like Mike, those are big numbers you look at. He's only been over 100 in quarterback rating 2 times. That is less signs than Tony Romo or Kirk Cousins. That is tied with Alex Smith and Derek Carr. Some of these things with him is because he has so much volume. Why do he have so much volume? Because they were always playing from behind in Detroit. One stat that people love to go to for him is he has some of the most comebacks. You know when you get the most comebacks? When you're fucking losing.
When you're
you
always behind.
Exactly. You know why certain people don't get these things? Because you're not fucking losing. That's why you get that. His career record in the NFL is 89-101-1. This was a number 1 pick. You had the best receiver in football for a good chunk of the career early. Later, you get James guy, Cooper Kupp, one of the best receivers in football again. So I guess I'll go back to something that was mentioned in a discussion the other week where we were talking about Johnny Manziel. And what I was told about Johnny Manziel from 2 members on the chat is, yeah, it's easy to throw the shit with somebody doing this and they doing this. Well, he had the ultimate guy named Calvin Johnson. He replaced that later with, as Jamie says, my little Cooper Kupp, who comes in and does that. He had a ready-made team. Let's be real. That Rams team, there's at least 10 quarterbacks I feel like would have subbed in and won that Super Bowl on the Rams. It wasn't because Matt Stafford did great things. You had Cooper Kupp. You had Sean McVay, plus one of the best coaches. Odell, even if he got hurt in the Super Bowl, was there at a certain point. That was a stacked fucking team. You had one of the best defensive players of NFL history on the other side. Remember, Leonard Floyd and all those guys were really good on the other side too. You had the best defense in football. That was a stacked team. I just truly believe we could have subbed him out, put 10 other people there, and it would have been perfectly okay. When it comes to playoffs, the man is 7-7. Yeah, he won 4 games. You know when he won the 4? With the Rams, with the Super Bowl. When did he elevate his team? At a certain point, you have to elevate your team. I go back to somebody we talked about earlier in this discussion, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, if we really look at the Colts, and I know I didn't put him in, that team was actually not good. Remember when Peyton got hurt, the reason they had to pick Andrew Luck because they wasn't good. Andrew Luck comes back in, they instantly elevate. That never happened to Detroit. because he only elevated them but so much. At a certain point, I have to look at you to elevate the team, especially as a number 1 pick, a 5-star high school prospect, one of the highest rated players, the most hyped up players in the history of quarterback, going all the way back to when that guy was 16 years old. We've been hearing about how Matt Stafford was coming when he was 16. We heard about when he went to Georgia. We heard about when he got to the Lions. He finally gets it when he has the best team in football, and all he has to do is finish the job. I'm not calling Jared Goff great, but at the same time, did the Lions not have a top 5 offense in the league last year with Jared Goff after they swapped him? I don't know. Jared Goff wouldn't have won the Super Bowl that year with them because, as you say, yeah, did he finish the job? Yeah, he did. But you know who he lost against? The fucking GOAT. That's why Jared Goff lost. He played Brady and Belichick. He was never going to win that. And neither would Matt Stafford. If you subbed it out, he would not have won that Super Bowl either that year. So with that,
and his best chance to win it because that was the lowest scoring Super Bowl in the history of Super Bowls.
Yeah, it was a
and it
defensive
one of the
battle,
worst
though.
Football
Like,
games ever. One of the most boring games ever. Me and John, like, kind of
we were kicking it. It was
10-3, right?
it was boring.
It was 10-3.
No, it was like no, it wasn't that low. It was. They started scoring in the second half. The first half was 0-0.
Right?
It was like 0-0.
It was 3-0 at halftime.
Yeah, wasn't
Yeah.
it like 13-9 or something? Finally,
It was 3-9, and it ended up 10-3.
I thought it was like 17-10 at the end of the game.
I
But I don't know. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you, Trey, because ultimately the quarterbacks are going to pass the ball more than everything. Like, and that's what I'm trying to say is like he'll get into the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying that he won't.
I think he will.
He will off of the yardage.
Yeah, I do.
But like you have to take in consideration when you're down, you're not going to run the ball. You're just going to keep throwing it. And okay, I'm going to get it. Like ultimately, when he went to the Rams, that team was ready to go. I mean, like Trey said, that's what I was trying to say is like you could have thrown anyone into that situation. Any of the top 10 quarterback.
What you said? I didn't hear what you said, Jay.
Daniel Jones.
You could throw anyone into that situation. I said Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones now, maybe not Daniel. I'll admit not Daniel Jones then. Maybe Daniel Jones
not
now.
Dan. I mean,
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
Because the thing is, there's a different version of that where that team was still
Baker
stacking on defense. That maybe you just don't put the ball in Daniel Jones to fuck up.
You just run the ball. You get a couple good running backs in that situation, and you run the ball.
Not to mention, for everything I give Daniel Jones has never had a Cooper Cup level player to throw to. For everything I give Daniel Jones, he didn't have Odell Beckham to throw to. Like that was wasn't Robert Woods still on that team too at the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert, like that was a stacked fucking team. He was a very athletic tight end. Like that was just. I do truly believe there's at least 10 quarterbacks who could have won that Super Bowl. At the same time, if we took Joe Burrow and just flip flopped him, you think the Bengals would have won that night? Because I don't. If they would have flip flopped in that Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow plays for the Rams.
You don't think Joe Burrow?
No, I'm saying, do you think the Bengals would have won?
No, the Rams still would have won.
Yeah, the Rams still win.
Ultimately,
he had, on the right team.
Well, when they made that trade, I was just like, okay, they kind of swapped the same player, just one has more experience, one has less. They just kept saying Matt Stafford's a great guy, and he's been in the league for a long time, and he's been like, I guess you could say consistent. He hasn't really had a major injury very much. I don't know if he has. So, I mean, he's been on the field
early.
But, like, for fantasy, yeah, he's going to put up those numbers because you're going to get those PPR leagues. But, yeah, I can't see him. But what was the stat that you were going to mention, Mike?
Oh, I looked it up. The Super Bowl ended 13-3.
13-3,
okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 3-0, 0-0 at half or something like that.
I think it was.
It was a defensive battle. I mean, regardless, remember, we had the GOAT on the other side, and he was having trouble with that offense. So, I mean, it was a defensive battle. So, so even if you had Stafford, who knows?
Yeah, it was 3-0.
Ultimately, and one thing I was going to mention is that, Jamie, your boys almost won that playoff game.
They should have won that playoff game.
They should have won. We were on Trey and I were on the phone talking within that game, and we were going nuts. They should have won that playoff game. And Matthew Stafford, I believe, fumbled twice in the final quarter. So
then Milo Cooper Cup finished the job
on your team.
I remember
Jay didn't know how to feel.
His wife and his boyfriend. I hope I picked her up sad. Fortunately, it didn't work.
Jay
What's-
was the most.
what's up?
We're talking about the 2021 playoff game, everyone, where the Buccaneers came back on the Rams and almost won in
Going up
overtime
24-0.
after
Probably
going.
the worst
Yes.
half of Brady's
And
career.
Jay didn't know how to feel that night.
Sorry, Mike. I cut you off again. What was the
Oh
stat?
no, I was just gonna say, to confirm, it was 3-0 Patriots at halftime. It was tied at 3 going into the fourth quarter, and then the Patriots scored 10 points in the fourth
Yeah.
and shut out the Rams.
Yeah, I think Gronk was one of the touchdowns. I think.
I
Or brought
think
him down.
the
Or-
touchdown.
No. It was running back. Actually, I think it was
Oh,
running
was
back.
it? What would that have been? LeGarrette Blount,
No,
or was
Maybe
it?
Blunt.
it may be Blunt.
Or James
actually.
White? Was it James White?
I think it was James White because I
James
think
White.
Gronk made that crazy catch on the sideline,
Yeah.
and I think that got him down to like the 5-yard line. And then I think James White ran it in on the opposite side. So, what was the overtime game in the Super Bowl? That was the one Trey, me and you were together
That's
for.
Atlanta.
That was
That
Atlanta.
Atlanta one.
That's
That was terrible.
that's the
That was the
28-3.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
Poor
topic
Falcons.
of the future, best game ever in football edition. We'll bring that to you here
Best
in a few
game
weeks.
ever. Yeah, that'd be good.
But I know what best game ever on Cinco Squad is, and I think you guys do too. I think it's time for Stump the Squad.
Yeah.
Oh, our
Ladies
favorite
and
time of the
gentlemen,
year.
once again to Cinco Squad, we have reached a point in the show where we are about to stump each other. We call the segment Stump the Squad. We know everything about sports. We whip our phones out to make it relevant and valid. We want you guys to feel great about yourselves. That's why I, in particular, get a lot of the questions wrong. Anyway, so the way it works is we ask each other questions. You get +2 if you get it right. You get -2 if you get it wrong. Person with the most points at the end of Stump the Squad gets the rant of the week. Sorry for not being there last week to get the dub, but I'm hoping for one this week. John, I'd like you to ask the first question this week.
Yes, sir. So we got 2 across the board. Boom, boom, boom. All righty. So since it's the Hall of Fame this weekend for the NFL, Gale Sayers was the youngest Hall of Fame inductee in NFL history. How old was he? 34, 35, 37, or 38?
37.
34.
Yeah, I was gonna go 34.
We got our
Despite that
answers?
7 sitting there. Yeah.
Jay,
34.
37.
34.
Mike says 34.
Mm-hmm.
I have successfully stumped. Jamie is 34.
Thanks, Trey.
And
Word to Ross to Payton. I said Bear. I'm gonna go with the other Bears great running backs number.
he was just 34 years old in 1977 when he got inducted.
Wow.
Impressive.
I have an interesting stat too. Just I wanted to throw out a fun fact.
Yeah.
Did you know the New York Jets have never beaten the Philadelphia Eagles?
Really? Wow.
No, didn't know that.
Congratulations.
What's on John's mind?
What's on John's mind?
All right, I'm at 0. Mikey Mike, take it away.
Okay, so trade deadline, as we said, has just come and gone. And there's an interesting question I have for you guys. So I don't know if you guys remember the pitcher Edwin Jackson.
Yes.
Anybody remember Edwin Jackson?
Yeah.
Edwin Jackson is one of 3 players to hold the record for most teams played for in a single MLB career. But how many times was he traded? 2, 4, 6, or 8? How many
6.
times was he traded?
6.
2, 4, 6, 8.
2, 4, 6, 8.
I think he's probably signed a bunch of one-year deals, kept bouncing around the league. I'll go with 4.
I'm gonna go 8.
It feels like a 2, right?
I'm going 8.
Okay,
feel
so
like
we got that.
two, I
We got
think.
our
4,
answers
yeah.
locked in.
Yeah, 4, 6, 8.
4, 6, 8. I have successfully stumped Jamie and Trey. It was 6. 6 trades.
I originally was gonna say 6 too, but I was like, nope, being different here.
Done for the week. Done.
Done. Done for you got 2 more. Oh wait, your own question. All
Answer.
right, who's
Well,
next?
Jamie, we'll give you the reprieve and let you ask a question.
Well, let us remain on the wonderful diamond. My question is, with the Braves inching towards their 70th win of the season and having the best record in the MLB,
Mhm.
can you tell me how many teams got to 70 wins before the 100-game mark? And that was last week. We passed the 100-game mark in the season.
Okay.
How many teams in the history of MLB got to 70 wins by their 100th game? Was it 1, 2, 4, or 5? How many teams got to 70 wins by the 100th game of the season
4.
in the history of the MLB?
2.
4.
Is it 1, 2, 4, or 5?
4.
2.
I'm gonna go 4.
Gentlemen, I have successfully stumped Mike and Trey. It is 2.
Ooh.
Those 2
Can I
teams are
guess?
the 98 Yankees,
Yep.
the
And the
2001 Mariners,
Yep.
the Orioles, and Mets did it in 102 games. The 84 Tigers did it in 101 games. So
Yeah, only
just a
could-
couple games more needed.
So I got it right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I only can think of that Mariners team. The other one, I said, I know I gotta be missing somebody, so go a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man.
I figured the Yankees and Mariners, but I
Them
was
are
like,
the two I knew.
I feel like there's 2 like old teams that may have done it.
Yeah, that's what I was like, go higher than what I
The
think.
Rays were definitely on pace to do it this year until they had that little slump.
All right, Trey Day. You're up.
All right,
So
what's up?
the scores are me at 4, Mike at 0, Trey at -2, and Jamie at -4. So Jamie's eliminated, Trey's eliminated, and it's down to Mike and myself. So
I need to get it right, and you need to get it wrong.
correct.
I understand. So let's go to
Trey,
the
please.
wonderful ring of boxing. One of our biggest fights of the, let's say, last decade or so happened over the weekend. It was exciting, entertaining fight. It was fun. But let's talk about all-time greats. In the way of, you all may be familiar with Floyd Mayweather Jr., but let's talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s family. Floyd Mayweather has his uncle, Roger Mayweather. His father, Floyd Mayweather Sr., also fought too. But for this sake, we're going to talk about Roger Mayweather, who was Floyd's former trainer, and his uncle. How many wins in his career did Roger Mayweather have in his boxing career? 29, 39, 59, or 69?
It's always a
39.
29.
I'm sorry, everybody went at once. I didn't hear. And everything was a 9 at the end. So
39.
John's going 39.
29.
Mike's going 29.
I feel back in the day, these mofos boxed all the time. So did you say 49 was an option?
29, 39, 59, 69.
59.
Okay, so this week, I have successfully stumped everyone except for Jamie. 59 wins. That makes today's winner John. Before going on, as a quick side note, as Jamie said, back in the day, everybody fought. Roger actually retired in the 90s. So Floyd Sr. originally was fighting. He was the older brother. Floyd Sr. retires. Roger goes in. He gets to fighting. Eventually, they both retire. Floyd Sr. goes to jail. Roger is Floyd's trainer. Floyd Sr. gets out of jail. Then he becomes Floyd's trainer. Floyd gets pissed off at Daddy, fires him, and then brings Roger back to finish training him, which is the Floyd Mayweather most of you all know. But the fun fact here is Floyd Mayweather Sr.'s record was 28-6. Roger Mayweather was 59-13, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. was 50-0. So Uncle Roger, although he's not 50-0 like Floyd, actually has 9 more victories in boxing than Floyd Mayweather Jr. does.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Family Feud. Your host
It feels that way.
Trey
But
Day.
shout out to John. Did John prepare a rant of the week?
I did not.
Think so.
but I'll go ahead. I'll rant all this week. So I'm not going to do the Yankees as you probably think with the hat on tonight. I'm just going to do with football. Football is back. Over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, it's going to sound weird, but I wasn't really overly excited for football to be back. And I think, part of it was just I don't know. It just got boring at some points. I don't know if you guys thought the same thing, but I think this is the first time in a while that I think football has actually been very exciting. And I think it's because we have such a multitude of teams that can compete now. And I think that's within sports. And I think sports is better for it. I think we went through, I think, maybe a 5 to 7 year period where in every sport we could only name a couple teams that would probably be the dominant teams. I think if you go through the NBA, the NFL, NCAA football and basketball, you go through NHL, you can't really pinpoint a dominant team because every team makes different moves. And I feel like I give a lot of credit to these teams that have stuck their ground and gone after players and really done a great job. Obviously, I want my Philadelphia Eagles to go back to the Super Bowl and win it again. But ultimately, it's such a tough league. We have the hardest schedule this year. It's going to be a tough one. But I gotta go with my boy Jalen this year. I think he's locked in on his phone screen this week. He had him walking off the field with the Chiefs confetti all over, falling over him, walking off the field last year. So he's motivated. Nick Sirianni said he's ready to go. So I think my rant of the week is ultimately saying, I support my quarterback, even though I didn't at first. And I apologize for Jalen Hurts, even though if that was a rant last year. I support my quarterback. I'm excited for his second year. I think he's going to do big things for the Eagles. And you know what? Let's go fly, Eagles fly, baby.
I feel like there's a pattern where we've seen a lot of teams go back to back recently and win it in whatever, be it the first or second. Like,
right,
you go to two, you're gonna win one. You know what I mean? So I would not on putting them as the front runners in the NFC.
But I think it's tough, right? Like when you look at it, right? It's not guaranteed, right? You have so many teams. You have Minnesota who reloaded. You have 49ers who reloaded. I don't know where they're getting the cap space. That you got all these teams that are really just going on and like having great, solid teams, and it's not guaranteed. Like these teams, like the Warriors of 2 years ago. I just watched that Steph's documentary and going back and rewatching that season, it was a dogfight. At one point, we didn't even think the Warriors were going to make the playoffs, but they had to fight through the playoffs in order to get to where they were. So, yes, it's nice to see the teams finally get there, but I think it's more of a fight. I don't think it's like when LeBron back in 2014 or 15 or whatever was skating through the first round, skating through the second round, into the West Eastern Conference. You know what I mean? Into the finals. Like it's not that.
That's what I imagine as he's saying.
That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback, man.
I think that's a good topic for us to debate.
When you criticize him, it's not fair.
We should definitely debate. We should debate that and see whether or not the path is truly that clear for Philly or not.
I think it's just any team in general. Like, is it that
Down
clear
in
in
the
any
comments.
sport?
Y'all
Talking
should
about
let us know. Should
unpredictable
we
pattern.
debate that?
I'm more on a
We debate
predictable
that.
pattern. You're saying no, and I'm saying yes. There's more of a predictable pattern than we think.
In the comments, y'all should let us say in the
I don't
comments,
see it.
fans, let us know. Do you think we should debate that on a future show?
Let us know down below. Hey, guys, any final thoughts here before we end it? Episode 70. Milestone here. Any final thoughts going into the weekend?
Big up to the reggae girls from Jamaica, actually making it to the knockout stages in the Women's World Cup. I'll be throwing something up on that. Stay tuned.
Trey?
Well, y'all let me know how the Hall of Fame game went. As I tell y'all before, I ain't have to watch no preseason football, so I will be spending time with my family before I disappear on them for 4 months.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months, whatever it is. So I got a couple more weeks to enjoy my family.
I'm excited for football to be back, especially because on a personal note, I think this, at least on paper, is one of the better teams the Giants have had in the last few years. I'm really excited for what they did, and hopefully they can repeat the success and go further in the playoffs this year. And hopefully the 7-2 Yankee win over the Tampa Bay Rays is a sign of things to come and not a flash in the pan. I'm not going to get my hopes up.
No, John, thanks for waiting 110 games to finally say the Rays are a good ball team. I'll take it.
You're welcome.
Still not
But I
making
want
it
to shout out one. I want to shout out one thing is Jamie's team this past weekend went to Iowa, I believe, and competed in the Junior Nationals. I believe you said it was
Junior Olympics.
a Junior Olympics. So congratulations to them. Definitely cheer them on. They had a lot of fun, great experience for his team and whatnot. Jay, if you want to say a little bit, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, just a great team atmosphere, great team spirit. I thought for a small team, we only had 21. We ended up getting second overall in girls with 14 girls, fifth
That's
overall.
awesome.
So it was pretty fantastic with small numbers. I mean, the New England team we won out 126 swimmers there.
Oh,
And we competed. We had our relays beat them out half of the time for the meet with
Nice.
0 points in 15 to 18 girls because there's 4 age categories. We still finished second in women to show you how
Nice.
strong we are. So we are a very strong women's team. We need to try and balance out on the men's side. But big up to the Blue Wave swimming. Overall,
Yes, sir.
the parents had a great time, kids had a great time. This is what it's all about. Memories are made. We're actually playing basketball at the end of the night because we had a little half court outside our hotel, and the parents and kids were all playing a knockout game together. You know, you have a healthy culture where at the end of a marathon swim meet at 10 o'clock at night, people still want to be together, break bread, play games, and have fun.
That's great.
So
That's what it's all about. Those are the
Yeah.
memories. I always say those are the memories they're gonna make. Is those type of memories like playing basketball, doing those things, than anything they did in the pool or anything like that. So, big shout out to your team. Best of luck to them here coming up this year. I know the season's starting here soon, so best of luck to your team and all the junior teams across the country. Definitely shout out, fellas. Great show this week. We will be back here for episode 71. Got some things in store for next week, so make sure you tune in. Can't wait for it. Like and share on our socials. It'll be below here, and we'll see you guys here next week.
just
Cinco Squad out.
keep swimming.